Welcome to the Team EF Coaching Cycling Performance Podcast, where we take information from the highest level of sport and make it accessible for all cyclists. I'm your host, Zack Morris, and in today's episode, we're bringing you something truly special. For the first time ever, we're taking you behind the scenes on one of our internal coaches' calls. At Team EF Coaching, we hold bi-weekly meetings where our coaches come together to discuss the latest updates in the sport, trending topics, and inspiring stories from our athletes. These calls often feature keynote speakers from EF Pro Cycling Sports Science Department, sharing their latest findings from the highest level of professional cycling. This is a big deal. We're giving our members direct access to insights from the experts shaping the future of the sport. What many people don't realize is how far ahead World Tour teams are compared to published research and mainstream trends. For example, in 2022, Zone 2 training became a hot topic in endurance sports, largely due to the influence of Tadej Pogacar's former coach Inigo San Milan. However, EF Pro Cycling had already been testing this approach as early as 2009 when Inigo was part of our team under its previous ownership. You see, EF Pro Cycling has never been the team with the biggest budget. Instead of spending heavily on star riders, the team CEO Jonathan Vaughters focused on a different strategy, investing in training methodologies and equipment innovation to maximize the potential of more affordable riders. By prioritizing sports science and cutting-edge technology, EF Pro Cycling has been able to elevate their athletes' performance without the hefty price tag of top-tier riders. This philosophy remains at the core of EF Pro Cycling today, with the sports science department being a critical resource. Access to insights like these has rarely, if ever, been shared publicly. However, due to confidentiality agreements and respect for our partners, the original recording of this call has been significantly reduced by over 60%. As a result, you might notice some choppy transitions in the conversation, and we appreciate your understanding. Moving forward, these coaching calls will be available exclusively inside our community app. You can download the app from the App Store or Google Play by searching for Team EF Coaching, or visit us at our website, teamefcoaching.com. While not all calls will be released as podcast episodes, our one-on-one coaching athletes will have full access to these valuable insights through their dedicated coaches. So without further ado, let me introduce this episode's keynote speaker, Andreas Klier. Having been with EF Pro Cycling since his days as a rider in 2011, Andreas now leads many aspects of the team's equipment program. In this episode, he shares upcoming changes to our equipment strategy across our 3 teams. After his presentation, our coaching team engages in a Q&A session to dive deeper into these innovations. We hope that you enjoy this exclusive look inside Team EF Coaching and the world of professional cycling.
Because in the end of the day, as every year, when it comes down to material, I do believe, or we as a team do very much believe, that once we find a feature to implement into which season, let's say season 2025, the tricky part is and will always be to implement it throughout the whole rider roster. With having next year a Devo team from last year onwards, already a female team, we're talking about 60 riders. So what we as a team are not doing is focusing on one specific rider and fine-tune him to the max. And his colleagues are just riding with standard material. What we're trying to do is find something which makes sense, which makes them faster throughout the whole organization, and then implement, check if it's actually possible to cover the whole 60 rider group for next season or 59, and then go from there. So what I did this year, for example, not sure if this is interesting for you guys. I've done so in other years too. You can see that, I guess. I just call it the material information sheet. It's a one-pager which goes in the beginning of the year out to all the riders, to all the mechanics, and to all the DSs. And there is, in a very simple way, written down to what material they will have access to. Very, very briefly underneath, you as a rider will also see that there will be 5 road tire pressure groups based on their weight and 3 TT weight groups or TT rider groups also based on their weight on their specific tires and on the specific rim. So to get there, to get to such a simple, actually boring sheet, it obviously takes some research. And for example, we gave it a good thought to split the rider group into 5, depending on their weight, finding an advantage out of it, because as everyone in this group, I believe, know the tires matter. Just have to see here now that I don't open the wrong one. Hold on. Yep, bear with me. This one you should see now. Can you see this spreadsheet? Mm-hmm. Right. So before we come out with this simple box underneath and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and give every box a name, we do obviously tire testing. This tiny little box here you can see now took us 4.5 days from 8 to 6 until Victoria closed their gates. And that's how we test different tires on different rims. And with the outcome, we make a decision which goes then into the next season. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is the thing which is new for 2025 is that we're going to use all year long 30 mil tires. On the rims, we will ride next year. Some of them have a 21 millimeter insert in a channel, others 23. The 23 one we will have from San Remo onwards, and that's basically gonna cover then the rest of the season. Because of the 30, we can play with the tire pressure much better and much more specific than we could before. And all of that on top of the frame features and stuff like that is obviously an advantage. What we focused last year on was stretching the riders on the bike, trying to give them a longer reach. We found out, I have to go back a little bit, 2023, while we were trying to invent a helmet, which is now on the market, Procene Air. We found out that stretching the rider is a huge advantage if he can hold position. I don't want to drift off here now in aerodynamics, but obviously if we pick material, we pick it performance orientated. So we stretched riders. We had to get them back on the normal position throughout the season because they couldn't handle the position. At the same time, we had this new helmet, and I would say for 2025. The main focus of material does not lay on TT, it lays on road racing. We will also next week during a camp here in Mallorca, we will do track testing, and historically all the teams, they threw left, right and center the TT bikes and extensions and God knows what they're doing. We're going to do road bike testing. We're not going to change handlebars and put them 2 centimeters longer and so on. We're going to work on details because we've done this 2024 already with stretching riders, as I just said. We're going to try to, educate them how to hold the hands in an ideal way. If you want to say so, how to copy paste Ben Healy. The best, and with the body structure you have, knowing that you have to put 100% power output, which means that obviously the angle from pedaling and so on is given. But what we also want to do is educate them on how not to wear the radio, how not to wear the helmet, which helmet to wear. That's actually the main focus for 2025 when it comes down to material. Is the basic education is given anyway. Now, knowing the riders from the Devo team a little bit better, I do believe they know more about material and aerodynamics than I do, to be honest. Having emails from people who are 19 saying that they, since 3 years already, are testing whatever which treated chains versus whatever which other treated chains, which I think is great, because then you know in which way cycling is going, and it fits very well into what we are trying to achieve. Talking about treated chains, we will have them also in road racing here and there, not always and not throughout the team. If we ride 4 races at the same time, so let's say you ride Liège, then the Liège team will have access to something like that, and at the same time you ride a semi-important race, and please don't get me wrong, there we will not do so. But as I said, we're going to put main focus on road racing and aerodynamics in combination with material. What we also going to do is we will have X amount of wheel sets in each of the 3 trucks, and trying to cover all 4 programs at the same time, as we're going to do more than 400 races, if I'm right informed, in total with the 3 teams. Those wheel sets, those X wheel sets, will have a tire which doesn't exist yet. So the idea is the wheels we're gonna get who have a very low friction hub or the bearing will have carbon spokes, has a 23 inner channel rim. They will be mounted, a few of them will be mounted with TT tires, 30 mil. If people like Paulus and co are going for a mission, because 200 kilometers saving 7 watts makes the difference. If the weather isn't too hot and if the heat management is given in a positive way regarding the Procene air, then they always will have to use that aero helmet for the road. And all of that together is basically what you're going to face 2025 if you see the riders on TV. What you won't see so much, but what's also a fact, is since last year we were working with FSA on very short crank lengths which didn't exist in the mass production. So our riders this year have access from 155, 160, 165, 167.5, which is a popular length, 170, and then the old standard, right? But we barely have people. Actually, we have nobody above 172 cranks anymore, not only in TT, but also road racing. The 155 is less popular as we thought, because when it comes down to max power output, it seems you can see or you can feel it a little bit too much. But I only can say or repeat what riders gave me as an input. A 155 or a 160 crank is nice in a November camp, riding as a group with 15 people. But once you start doing exercises in December, people went back to or 160 or 165. I also believe that not every team has that access from 155 cranks, which is a great tool. On top of that, we're obviously going to play with gears like every team. We started with this already years ago. We have On the road, we will try to implement the 58 if possible on every frame size, which isn't given yet. There has to be some work around the front derailleur. In TTs, we go until 64, and we don't want to go higher. There is discussion around the 68, but I don't believe this will happen any time the next 3-4 months. Let's see. Things are moving the right direction. I think we are not ahead of many other teams as we were 5 years ago with our wheel sets. But we are at the top range of most of the teams. If I say we, Peter Skep and myself, we are fully aware that we will never be at the top and can just sit down on the chair and say, yeah, we made it. It's constant a rotation of information. We get left, right, and center, trying to filter and trying to actually implement it into our day-to-day work. Because as I said before, if you do 400 races with 3 teams, that is obviously not so easy in a time window of 260 days racing a year, right? So. I think that's where I stop. Is this okay, Zack?
Yeah, Andreas, that was fantastic. Thanks for sharing all of that information. I think if you wouldn't mind, if we could just open the discussion up to all the coaches that may have some questions. If you wouldn't mind just answering a few questions, I think that'd be great.
I try my best.
You already covered a lot of great stuff. I think it's really interesting that you guys are using 30 millimeter tires for pretty much everything this year. That's it seems like there's still corners of the sport that haven't quite embraced that yet. So it's fascinating to hear that you guys are full steam on that, especially after the extensive testing you've done. So, this is great information for us to share with our clients on kind of a top, like a way to filter down the expertise that you guys have earned through testing and through your experience and share that with them. And that's kind of a gem for us to offer them. So.
Yeah, it's a combination, Colby, of the right tire pressure, right, and actually the right rim. But probably if you have a 23 in a channel rim, it doesn't matter from which company, I guess. But if you have the right tire pressure, you obviously go faster into corners, you go faster out of corners. Doing this throughout a bike race, that obviously adds up. Yeah. Next to that, if you have the access to this 30 mil TT tire riding in a road race, I think you will have a big advantage, right? So, yeah, we are looking forward to that. In TTs itself, we're going to stay with 28 tires as we also going to ride 21 millimeter inner channel. So it literally goes, it's a combination of, right? If you would look at the test in a little bit closer, the one I shared very briefly, you would see that a 28 tire is here and there, depending on which weight group and which speed, 0.4 watts to 0.6 watts, even faster. But if you put the right tire pressure for that person in the right weight group, it's actually faster riding a 30. So
yeah,
a lot of thinking and then trying to implement this, and because you obviously can't make 15 weight groups, right, and say to the mechanics, yeah, here you go. But I think with 5, we've done that's a good alternative to a bigger group, and yeah, it's fine. No, that's good.
And do the riders have any input in that? Like, I know for me, I used to have constant discussions with the 6-day mechanics about putting more pressure in than I wanted. And I don't know, there was nothing close to a weight group. I think everyone just got the same amount, which if I remember correctly was like 8 bar or something, which, for 6 days.
400. 400.
400. Yes, 400. And so Daniel was there. He knows. So, especially on some of the tracks that were constructed the night before, sometimes they built a velodrome. So there was sawdust everywhere for the first night of racing, which made things interesting. But I was always pleading to have the mechanic lower the pressure for me because I just felt safer out there. And so will the riders have any input directly, or is it sort of a...
No, it's the riders didn't have any input before we put the first wheel sets during November camp. We gave out wheel sets with actually race wheel sets for next year, and we put it on the correct tire pressure. And people like Asgreen, who are very much into material, they were talking about 2 bar more and this, that, and the other. Yeah, and in the end of the day, he very much loves it, and he very much understands the advantage, and also actually he feels it also that it's fast, which is great. It's a great feedback. It's also that you all the work you've done in the background, that also pays off. Because if they would stand there as a group and say this is actually really shit, Andreas, nice that you worked a while, but nobody wants to use that, then we also had to accept that. And then the work would start again. But I think we've done quite some good stuff, and let's see how it works out. Let's hope that we win some bike races with it.
And Andreas, I had a question for you. You brought up a really interesting point about having the athletes trying to mimic Ben Healy's position. Obviously, it sounds like because he's probably got the lowest CDA on the team, right? So, and probably able to produce high power in that position. So last year you said that you had quite a few athletes struggling to ride this longer position, and you're avoiding that this year. What percentage of people weren't able to actually ride that longer position? And was there anything from a training perspective that you felt made the difference for the athletes that were able to ride that position?
Well, second part of your question, I can't answer. I'm not diving too much into their training peaks. I'm not the right person for that. Let's say we placed 10 riders, male riders, 10 male riders on a much longer position. 3 to 4 went back. So yeah, 40% went backwards again, right? I think it has something to do with training, and maybe we were also exaggerating with one or the other. It's a mix of. I don't want to say that it was a mistake. I think it's the way to go. But yeah, 40% they couldn't. Right, they could ride like this, obviously, and have great values when it comes down to CDA. But once it comes down to 100% power output, and you say, okay, he's on paper, with all of the respect, but he's a helper. So he's riding a 56 chainring, and he's riding a narrow suit, and he's riding a pristine helmet, and we put him on a comes from a 120 stem, we put him on a 140, right? Narrowest bar, shifters in, and so on. That didn't really work out. It was more, I think it was more a fantasy thinking that we say, let's place 3 helpers as long as possible with the fastest equipment, biggest gear, and so on. And that's what I said in the very beginning. I think when you have those ideas, you should think about now, 2025, about 60 riders, roughly. It's not so easy to implement. You can't just go one by one and say, yeah, let's do this with you and let's do that with another person. But I think we're doing good. In overall, we are doing good to very good. But again, I mean, if you guys have an idea, I'm looking for the new tubeless, right? Can't find it. Something which just, is from another planet, that we are much faster than the rest. I can't find it yet. let's see.
Awesome. Thanks. I think Daniel Holloway's got his hand up here for a question.
Yeah. How much are you guys trying to encourage guys not to train in race equipment, in race tires and race conditions, like aero socks and helmets and skin suits and, carbon wheels, to try to get that sensation of training materials versus race material on race day? Because I think most of us on this call come from an era of having training wheels and race wheels, and you can feel the difference. Is that still the same psychology, or is everybody trying to just feel like it's race day every day?
No, I mean, their training wheels are not from the same quality as the race wheels, for sure not when it comes down to the bearings. They also do have more solid tires, so they definitely will be slower, those tires. On the clothing, I have to say, which might not fit into this topic here, material, right? But heat management versus aerodynamics is the thing we have to discuss, since we are discussing since a year. Obviously, all the aero suits we are wearing, they are not cool. So I do know that they are training with their aero clothing, but not because they want to train faster or feel like in a race, but actually they want to get on top of this heat management, and next to their sauna sessions and stuff. They do train with that.
Chad, looks like Chad's got his hand up. Chad, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I'm curious about the tire testing protocol. When you mentioned that there could be a 0.4 to 0.6 watt difference between two tires. Is that only rolling resistance, or does that account for the aerodynamic difference and the full system difference between the two tires?
Only rolling. That's only rolling resistance. We make those. Go ahead.
And do you see a difference in aerodynamics between the 28 versus 30? And I guess you're also limited in what the bikes can handle, but have you seen the upper limit of tire width, where that starts to drop off?
Yeah, we tried once a 34 tire, right? We probably will never ride it, obviously, but it drops also off with a too narrow rim and a 30 mil tire versus the correct rim compared to a 28 tire. That's the reason why we are riding. Our TT bikes are quite old now. Together with the wheels we having, in combination with the 28 tire, in combination with especially the front wheel in that fork, the fork from Cannondale, that wheel is really fast. If we put there a 32 mil tire in, you see the difference. Full stop. Yeah.
Okay. So are you doing the sort of the math of this tire is this many watts faster on this wheel, but then on this bike it's not, as a whole system with aerodynamics, then we lose that again, so it's better to change to a smaller tire, for example?
This could happen. I mean, I had lately, actually 2 days ago, I had a discussion with somebody who said he read somewhere also the latest research of somebody who placed actually a 25 mil tire on a 21 millimeter rim, saying that this was much faster. But then if you compare 25 mil tire on a rolling resistance machine versus a 28, the difference is so big that can't be true. One part of it is obviously true. If it's faster in the wind tunnel, I believe that. Depending on the jaw angle, if it's 0.5 or maybe even 15, right? But the difference between a 25 and a 21 millimeter inner channel and a 28 is huge. So that aero feature won't cover that deficit, right? But I think there will be, like you mentioned, tipping point, right? I think there will be a tipping point. If a 34 tire is better in Roubaix, right? Will you ride it? I don't think so that we will ever see it. If there would be a rim, which is, I'm just saying a number, 60 millimeter wide as an inner channel. Mm-hmm. So let's say a person produces a wheel which is that wide and the outside of the rim is maybe 4.5 centimeter wide, right? And you place a 34 with the right compound, or same compound as our racing tire, you probably have a faster setup than with a 32 in a normal wheel. I believe so, but I can't confirm that. So maybe that happens once.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you.
Fascinating. Good question. It looks like Coryn has her hand up. You want to go ahead?
Thanks. Thanks, Andreas, for all the technical info. It's all really interesting. I had a question just coming off the women's team last year. If there was an update on the Corsa controls for the cobbled classics.
Yeah, there are no controls anymore because of you guys. So we wrote the controls then later again. So just as a feedback for everyone, or as a so the female team had plenty of crashes with control, saying they were slippery, which they probably were. We at the same time also raised it, and it wasn't slippery. Although later in the season, we had those tires in a race in Belgium in the Eneco Tour, whenever late in the season. And there we had two people sliding just away, like basically the feedback from you guys were, Coryn. We, in the whole time, we reached out to Vittoria, and they said it's can't be and stuff like that. In the end of the day, they covered now every size with their Pro model. We didn't ride any flats with the Pro model in even the classics. And then also in the end of the year in Benelux Tour, like this race there in Belgium, Holland. So yeah, Coryn, sorry that you guys had to test ride them, but they are gone.
Well, at least there's a little bit of improvement there, but also to cover a little backstory, they were only slippery on like the first or second ride. Once they were ridden and kind of crashed, then after that they were better, but we had a handful of bad experiences there.
Yeah, I remember. But I mean, even then, if you say after 2 times riding, they're fine, something like that we could never implement into this whole bike team, right? I mean, you have to have like a proper setup, and at the same time, you also have to believe what the sponsor gives you. And from 2026 actually onwards, they are making now a machine at Vittoria. We can also test that, which will be super interesting. We are not able to do it now, but 2026, or maybe this year in the winter, we are able to actually test the friction. Is this the right word? Friction of a tire, or how slippery it is, or how sticky, right? It's going to be cool.
The grip,
sorry. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. That was great. Some great questions there. Does anybody else have any questions before we cut Mr. Andreas loose?
Is Chad had his hand up there?
I think his hand's just still up.
No. Andreas, as an artist, how do you feel about these guys wearing aero helmets in road races? Is that difficult?
Alex.
Is that hard? That's hard, isn't it? It's hard for you.
No, it isn't. Because actually this one helmet, no. The helmet, Lachlan won his race there, you know, the one in the dirt. That was my idea. Don't you like the helmet, Alex?
You fucked us, Andreas.
So I have you to blame then for my loss.
Yeah, you fucked Chad. You fucked all of us. You said you put it on Lachlan to try and make it look cool, and now we're all fucked. Thank you.
I'll show you one little tiny thing. You see that, Alex?
Yeah.
So imagine you would have a Pro Tour license in 2025. Imagine you would be 20 years old and you have the chance to, So.
It's hard for me to imagine, honestly, but I'll try.
I can imagine. So just to see that, the ventral is our normal climbing helmet, right? That's the CVA value. So you have the bike, you have the total, you have the helmet. If you would ride 50 per hour, okay, the ventral helmet would take basically 17.5 watts of the moving watts you need to ride 50 per hour. The Procene Air, only 6. That's 11.5. Okay. So what would you do? Huh?
I'd do what I always did. Listen to Andre.
Yeah.
Also, knowing what you know now, how slow do you think those Mavic tires were when we were riding in Paris-Nice?
Whoa! I think to the tires we're riding now, 15 watts per tire.
So you probably would have had another 2 years of your career if we didn't have those fucking tires, huh?
I don't think so. I think I rode already a year too long, or at least 5 months too long, Alex. But that's okay.
Yeah. Good to see you. Holloway's got his hand.
Good to see you.
Question: do you guys, with the that chart you just showed of 11.5 watt difference between the two helmets, do you guys have a calculator to break down energy expenditure over time on if you rode one helmet versus another over, unbound over 7-hour race, 8-hour race, what the energy expenditure difference would be? Do you guys calculate that to say you would be 700 kilojoules less or over a duration? Or do you just use straight watts?
No, the charts you just saw is basically something simplified to share if somebody doesn't want to ride the helmet or to give a correct answer. I do believe I'm the wrong person. Peter Schkepp, who will also be in your call one of those days or whenever that is, he can give you a precise answer on that. I would say, yes, we have that. We can calculate things, but not me. It's Peter.
Gotcha, thanks.
Sorry.
Yeah, Peter will absolutely be on a future call. So store that question, Holloway. All right. I think that's all the time we booked Andreas for. Andreas, thank you so much for doing this call. That was awesome. It was great to connect everything you're working on internally with all the coaches here. I think that we're all going to take quite a bit away from this call and add it into what we're doing on the coaching side. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Whenever you need me, whenever you guys need me again, just shoot a message and I jump on a call again.
We hope you enjoyed this exclusive look inside Team EF coaching in the world of professional cycling. If you found this episode valuable, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. It helps us reach more cyclists like you. If you're looking to take your cycling performance to the next level, consider working one-on-one with one of our expert coaches. Our tailored coaching programs are designed to help you achieve your goals with personalized guidance and support. Learn more at teamefcoaching.com. Want to be a part of a thriving cycling community? Join our Team EF Coaching community app, where you'll get access to exclusive content, discussions, and expert insights. Download it now on the App Store or Google Play. And don't forget to check out our Skills Academy course platform, where we offer in-depth training courses to help you refine your technique, improve your fitness, and maximize your cycling potential. Head over to teamefcoaching.com to get started. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.